That was an incredible episode of March Comes In Like a Lion. Last week I said basically the same thing, that it just does so well at capturing emotion. And this episode was so damn perfect for it. I found myself crying multiple times at this. And that was after, like, the beginning was so damn funny. So yeah, this was an incredibly powerful episode. Shaft are just doing brilliantly with this when it comes to the animation and the music. They just work so well with the story. And it's perfectly capturing that feeling. I mean, in this episode, it was the Obon Festival, which is all about remembering the dead, honouring them, saying goodbye to them, that kind of stuff. Burning incense and possibly visiting your relatives' graves and stuff like that. So it was a very deep episode come the second half. Even though the first half was so jokey, but man, it was just that perfect capture of the feeling when you've lost someone and you don't quite want to talk about them yet. When you get to that point where you remember all the good things and you're moving on with your life, you're trying to continue, but every time you think about them, you get sad. And that's something this anime is doing incredibly well, especially with Rei, who's lost both of his parents and assumingly his sister. Because we had this flashback in this episode when he actually got asked by the grandfather, where are your parents buried? And he talked about his father being from this far off place, so he couldn't go visit them. And so we saw a flash to like his whole family, both his mother, his father, and his sister. And then later on in the episode, we saw a car crash and him talking about when did I stop feeling that kind of feeling that Akari was still feeling, where she needs to be distracted by other people to take her mind off of the freshness of the wounds. Like, he's gotten past that point at least. And then, you know, there are other things in his life that are fucking him up, but yeah, that was so good. We found out exactly what happened to his family. There was a car crash. Hell, he may have even been in the car. Since he remembers the car crash itself vividly, there's a chance that he was in the car and actually survived, and I can imagine that causing all kinds of mental scars to him as he went on in the future. I mean, there's already that general idea of why was I spared, and then the fact that he had to go live with this other family. I'm not sure how they were connected to his original family, and them eventually ending up disliking him because he was better than them at Shogi, and that was because, I mean, we saw it in this episode. Whereas Akari is distracting herself with her own work and Rei and the family, Rei just threw himself completely into Shogi. He practiced Shogi day in, day out. So god damn, this anime is so good at capturing that feeling. And man, Akari is best girl. Best girl of the season is what I mean. Not just of the anime, obviously of the anime. I mean, there's only 3 girls and the other ones are underage anyway, but Akari, man, she's so amazing. When she stumbled across Rei while he was on his way home, drunk out of his mind, carried him home, took her to her house, and looked after him, made him actually throw up. That was so intense as well. I mean, there's so much meaning behind those words as well, where she literally said, oh, you don't know how to. She was treating it as like a normal thing, having to force yourself to throw up. And she did all this for somebody she hadn't even met before, who was still probably about 16, took him home, looked after him, then made sure that he realised he was welcome to come round whenever. Man, she's such a sweet woman. And I'm assuming that by that point her parents had already died and she was looking for something to distract herself with, but I just love that. Because in the first episode, I thought, even though they had mentioned Akari and Hina and everyone's parents being dead, I thought that those wounds were a little bit older. I didn't realise it had happened relatively recently because it felt like they were doing so well in their life. They were Rei's happiest place. Everything was happy when you went round to their house. But in this one, we find out they're hurting just as much and they're trying to distract themselves just as much from all of that as well. And so even though in the first episode it felt like Rei was getting everything from them, that they were just being so nice to Rei, it seems like Rei is actually helping them forget about the past as well. So that's incredible. That's just such a nice mixture of feelings there. The fact that these two sets of people really, who have lost so much and are in such bad places in their lives, are doing this so that they can look after each other. They're both distracting themselves with one another, and in Rei's case at least, he feels like he doesn't deserve it, and he is constantly worried he's going to overstay his welcome. I mean, he had that moment in this episode where he talked about how they had said, come over whenever you want to, but he was scared they didn't mean it, and so he generally tries not to overdo it. He doesn't go out of his way to go see them. He lets them make the offers first, and then he goes along with it. That was so bloody brilliant. And that could, again, stem back to this general idea that since he survived the car crash, he doesn't put much faith in himself as a person. He doesn't really think he's worth looking after. He doesn't feel like he deserves anything in his life. Man, that's so damn good. And again, all the autistic shit. I mean, I'm still going into the sad parts of the episode. We'll get into the happy parts as this goes on. But yeah, when he was talking about some of the artistic effects they use as well, where he was talking about when he first came to the city, everything felt like it was in black and white. Like there was barely any sound, he couldn't hear anything. Like, all of that are effects that they actually use on this show. They used them extensively in the first episode, they used them in this episode as well. They used them at the beginning of the episode when he was on his way to play Shogi. So they've been using those again to show when Rei is feeling stressed. I mean, that's what he said, that it was actually, once he'd met people and settled down and got used to the city, the colour returned and the sound returned, but it was just the stress of being there without anyone around him, just in general not having any enjoyment in life. I mean, a lot of people describe depression that exact same way, as feeling like the world just doesn't have any colour and sounds don't feel right. You just feel disconnected from everything that's actually there. So I love that they've actually got Rei monologuing some of the visual and audio effects that they're using in the show as well. It just sound good. And this whole layer of them distracting themselves with each other so that they don't think about their own pain in the past. God, that was so good. So, I mean, as I was saying, Akari is bae. She looks after everyone. Finding out that she works at a hostess bar was really surprising, to me at least. Because she seems like the perfect mother kind of character when she's actually at home. She didn't look that particularly sexy. She just looked incredibly gentle and sweet and kind. She's completely filling in for the role of their mother, and it suited her so damn well. So when they went to the bar with Smith and Issa, it was just really nice having that different version of Akari, the one that's working and providing for her family by in general being sexy and drinking with men and taking care of other men. Oh man, and I loved how Rei mentioned it as well, the same kind of thing. The fact that she's a different person when she's at the bar, but he thinks both of them are beautiful. He's completely in love with her. And that's kind of amazing. I mean, she's basically filling in for his mother and his sister, and he's like in love with her in every other kind of way as well. Oh man, I'm really wondering if he's going to go down that route and actually fall in love with her in a sexual kind of way and try to move into a relationship kind of thing. Because I'm not sure how that would work, because she does treat him a bit in a variable position kind of thing. Like, she definitely doesn't treat him like a love interest. She treats him partly like a brother, partly like a son. She definitely looks after him and is more motherly than anything else. But at the same time, he's become such a good part of the family, man. And I think that may be part of why he keeps a distance from the family as well, is because he has essentially fallen in love with Akari, and it doesn't quite work for him. And we heard him in this episode talking about how he always feels slightly uneasy around her, because when they first met, like, there was no hiding his pain or his anguish from her. She saw him when he was at his lowest point, in the middle of alcohol poisoning, and she took care of him and forced him to throw up and everything. So she's literally seen everything that he tries to hide from the rest of the world. Oh man, that's such a lovely relationship. So deep and powerful for both of them. So yeah, just pure greatness. And I am wondering exactly who were the senpais in Shogi that actually ended up getting him drunk to that kind of point where he couldn't physically get home, and where he clearly did actually have alcohol poisoning. And if Akari hadn't made him throw up, he could have had some serious health problems from that shit. Man, I would love to know who that was. If there was anyone, for all we know, there weren't actually any senpais, and he's been lying to her slightly about that story, or maybe never even told her the full story and she just assumed that. And in actual fact, he just got that drunk by himself. Hell, it may have even been a suicide attempt. I mean, I at least was just naturally thinking about it being linked to the alcohol again, but maybe he did attempt a suicide attempt at one point, take a bunch of pills, and if Akari hadn't found him stumbling around and made him throw up, maybe that was how he was planning on ending his life. Oh god, that's a sad thing to think about, but I mean, considering all of the deep signs in the opening and in the rest of the episodes about him being in such an intense depression, and Akari and the family being that one bit of light in his life, I mean, if they did save his life and keep him alive at that point, that would just make sense to that so damn well. Okay, so moving out of that, I think I've said enough about the depressing stuff, other than just, the grandpa's amazing, the fact that Momo doesn't quite understand it as well, the whole Obon festival thing where they're burning incense, making little toy horses so that they can ride them back was all amazing. And the final bit where Akari sent him home and was saying he should come around for the Okuri festival, which is like the end of the Obon festivities where they send out the little boats. And the fact that she couldn't even get out all the words, or at least he didn't hear them because they were so damn quiet, where she just wanted someone around to distract them from their losses. God damn, that was just supremely powerful. I loved it so much. So yeah, he needs to stop thinking about himself as being a bother to the family and actually spend more time with them, because they're both helping each other so damn much. So yeah, on to the fun stuff. The first bit of this episode was just incredible. It was throwing me through a loop, actually. I was like, oh, so this is what this anime is going to be like. Because suddenly it felt like Bakemonogatari in its funniest moments, where it was doing the exact same kind of visual effects for this new character who I love. Nikaido is just incredible. He's so much fun. Self-proclaimed best friend to Rei, lifelong rival. And Rei clearly sees him as just such a nuisance. But at the same time, he's another good influence on him, because he's so happy, he's so energetic. He's showing up talking about how he's his rival, and he broke into his goddamn mailbox and took out the listings. Which is good, because I really thought it was his money. I'm so glad it was just the announcement for when they were going to have a match with each other. But that was just an incredible scene. It was so happy. It was so over the top. I had so much fun laughing at it. And they were doing all the visual effects with, Nikaido constantly changing colour, getting super deformed. All the zoomed in shots on his face where he was in, ridiculous facial expressions. Oh, man. And they're really going hard on the fact that he's overweight as well. I mean, all the sound effects he was getting for everything he did, where it was literally noises like chub and bounce and wobble, and then the fact that he was eating 4 pizzas by himself and a giant bottle of Coke. They really went overboard on really making you realise dude was big. But I mean, he's just such a fun guy and such a lovable guy as well. I mean, he'd probably annoy the hell out of me in real life as well. But as an anime character, he seems like he'd be such fun to hang out with. He's such a breath of air to the series, and this whole first half of this episode really made me think about what it was going to be. I mean, the whole first episode was so dark for so long, and then when we started this episode with the whole first half being so light-hearted, I thought that's how it was going. It was going to be more of a jokey one than I thought, and it was going to be much more Iyashikei and much less deep. So that sudden switch to everything suddenly being dark as shit towards the second half of the episode was a big shock for me by the end of this one. I mean, we met those other characters as well, the other players of Shogi that he went against. I mean, he completely decimated Matsumoto Isa, who was so much fun. I mean, it digs into the fact that other people have things going on in their own life as well. I mean, Isa was such a beast. He was such a big, manly man. He was so happy all the time. Then when he got defeated, he was just laying down on the ground, so sad, turning away from them. We had Smith come over and mention the fact that he really just wanted to get to this NHK match so that it would be on TV, and so that, I think it was his grandpa, possibly his uncle, was going to be able to watch it from where he was, who wasn't in particularly good health and couldn't come to the matches. That way, he'd have at least been able to see Isa, who he taught how to play shogi, had taken that to the next level and actually gotten recognition for it from the world. And that would have been a great opportunity for him. But that didn't happen because Rei is just too good. And unfortunately, he came against Rei early in the preliminaries. Oh, man. So yeah, that was great. Smith and Isa are both so cool. Smith, one of my favourite voice actors of all time, Sugita, killing the role, being perfect with that deep, manly voice. They're both like tall characters. They're both rather manly in different ways. Issa seems like he'd fit very well on a Haikyuu kind of setting, like a sports anime kind of setting. He was even doing like the Hikaru no Go kind of thing, like lifting up the thing and slamming it down onto the board, making it really distracting for everyone else, whereas Smith's a really just cool, mature individual who doesn't let things faze him too much. I love them both. They both were so funny in this one. And Smith knew exactly how to play Issa by taking him to the bar and them all going to drink with Akari. And Akari, like, played him as well. Made sure that Issa ended up wrapping himself in his own lies with, oh yeah, I'd never do that. I'd never run up the tab on my friend. I'm totally paying for all of these drinks. Even though he lost the match. Even though he's not the one going to the future ones and actually going to get lots of money. He ended up paying for the drinks for everyone. Oh, just more scenes that Akari is beast. And that, you know, Issa and Smith are so much fun as well. They're such good friends. And how they did bring along Rei with them and just let Rei drink normal juice. Whereas a lot of people would force him to drink alcohol because he's hanging with his senpais. That's what senpais do. So yeah. It was just a nice little fun bit to the beginning of the episode. It was so much more fun than I was expecting. I was expecting a lot of depression and then some fun bits for each episode, but it shows that they're going to be switching in and out of the two. There may even be whole episodes in the future where it's super happy or super depressing. But it's that nice balance between the two that keeps going backwards and forwards that really captures the essence of life as well. Because even when you're in depression, like, there are times when you just can't feel anything, but it's just nice to be around people that are so happy. I mean, we have so many signs of that in this one as well, with Rei constantly being happy, but very rarely actually smiling. And even when he is smiling, it's a very gentle kind of thing. And then there are moments when he'll remember other things that are going on in his life, where you'll see his eyes just go dead inside. When he thought about the Obon Festival, when so many other things have gone on. When he thought about the Shogi match in the last episode, when he saw the news and imagined himself beating his adopted father to death with his hands. So yeah, I love this anime. It's capturing all of those feelings so damn well. It's drawing me in so much. I love all of the characters so far. I really hope we eventually get to see the other members of the adopted family and see just how horrible they are, if they're actually good three-dimensional people who just were really hurt by Rei beating them and being better than them. I would definitely prefer them being like that than just being general wicked stepsister kind of characters. But yeah, incredible. This one was a 10 out of 10 for me. Same as the first episode. Objectively, it's probably the best anime this season. Even though it's not the one that I think about the most when I come away from it. It's just everything they're doing with the art, with the music. It's all been perfect and I've loved it. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know what you think of this episode so far. Let me know what you think about Rei's past. Do you think he was in the car with them, or do you think he just knew it was a car crash and so that's what he was thinking about? Do you think he actually tried to commit suicide in the past, or was he really just brought out and made to drink by his senpais? Let me know your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this review, wreck that like button like you mean it. Subscribe if you haven't already to see more, and I will see you guys next time.